Hello, everyone. My name is Twee. I am the clutter confidant of Ever So Neat, and welcome to The Story Behind It. It's a show that honors the stuff we keep and the ones we're ready to release. And today I am talking with Amber. I'm so excited to hear everything she has to say about what she's holding on to and releasing. And I talk a lot about inner voice and using inner voice as really a tool to make decisions. And that's how I know Amber. We know each other from the inner voice space. So I'm especially interested to hear from that perspective where everything flows. So, hi, Amber. You can introduce yourself however you'd like.
Perfect. I'm Amber Dolan-Bath. I'm the creator of Spirit of Mother. I'm a podcaster. I'm a mama of a 16-month-old and a wife. My favorite bios, if you will, include something like, I like chocolate, but for me, I don't like chocolate, but I really like ice cream and I'm lactose intolerant. So the lactate pills, beautiful thing. Beautiful, beautiful
I
thing.
love it. I thought you were going to say like you're the best ice cream replacement or like dairy-free ice cream, but
No,
no, the lactose pills do it all.
yeah,
Because sometimes, yeah, there's just no substituting.
exactly.
I love it. I will forever remember that. So we can jump right into it. Have you brought or thought of something that you would like to keep?
Okay, so I didn't bring anything, but I have been very, how do I put this? I moved into my parents' house, and so I had to get really clear on what I wanted and what I didn't want. So that question of what do I want to keep, it came down to my journal, my crystals, my special pens, and these oracle cards that are from Rebecca Campbell. I have the Rose
Mm,
Oracle currently, but I've had the Starseed for a little bit now. And it's just, those are the reminders to go within. So anything that reminds me of like, I'm a spirit first is the
mhm.
stuff that I want to have with me.
I love as you were going down that list, that's exactly the feeling that I brought to it. And it's so interesting, right? It's contrasting because it's all external items. And as much as I talk about not being attached to items and just unattaching for the sake of not having that story around it or around you, it is really nice to have those reminders of visually telling yourself to go within, especially when you're in a space that's not maybe all your own.
Right.
So I love we were just talking about your beautiful background too, so I love that you have that there. It's just any little thing that you can have to represent or remind yourself of what's really internally, and that changes all the time.
hmm
But the things that you mentioned, like the journals, the crystals, I feel like those just shape into whatever you need at that moment.
Yes, yes, yes. And I also have an obsession with dresses. And when I became pregnant with Lily, and then that first year postpartum, I didn't have any dresses. I had jumpsuits because they just were so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I started getting back into my dresses, and to collect them has been so nourishing for myself.
I love it. What is the last one you purchased?
I just bought one. Okay, so there's two companies that I love. One is Target, which is not eco-friendly, and one is Christy John, which is eco-friendly.
Oh,
And my eco-friendly ones, as much as I love the Target ones because I can just grab them and wear them when I need them, the Chrissy Dawn ones, which I have a yellow dress, it's like 3/4 length sleeve, and I wear a belt with it. It just it reminds me that we need to take care of our earth, and it doesn't like the other stuff like frays or it gets the bubbles or and this just like it keeps its shape and it's well taken care of, and it just reminds me to take care of me and take care of the earth. And so the last one I bought was Target, but the favorite ones are Christy Dawn.
I'm actually wearing the Target one right now, my
That's
dress.
awesome.
And yeah, there is room for both. I think we have our ideals and our visuals and the things that we think should be, but as you know, within our voice, it's like there's space for it all, and it doesn't have to be only one thing. I have the same um, contrast for me too. For me, it's Sonnet James. Her dresses are so well made and foreplay, like specifically for moms. They're an investment piece, so I usually save up to purchase them. But yeah, those are my favorite pieces too because because of what it represents. It's not just
Mhm.
how it looks, but how you feel in them and the intention that she's put behind designing the dresses. So I totally get that.
I'll have to Google them.
Do you have room to like display your pretty dresses? How do you honor them in your space?
So that's also an interesting question because I Marie Kondo told me to, do the circle thing. And I did that for a while. But my favorite, I have this because we don't have a real closet here. I have, like, I don't even know how to, it's just like a bar and it like wheels around as if you're in
Oh
a
yeah.
clothing consignment store. And that's where I hang my dresses. And that's where Jacob hangs his like nice outfits as well. And he's big into dressing nice. So like we just have our nice collection just always on display.
I love that. Yeah, because it can be like piece of part of your decoration, part of your art.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be hidden away. Yeah, I love Marie
No.
Kondo too, and I love folding it. Sometimes you don't know what it is, and sometimes you don't see everything that
Yep.
it can be. And especially if you're not in a space right now where you can wear those dresses all the time, it's nice to honor them in that way too. I love that.
Yeah.
And so, what has been the biggest challenge for you in leaving, I guess, your space and going into another one?
Oh, okay.
It's a big question.
So I have to give some backstory here. So I lived literally right across the street from my best friend. Like how I got my apartment was because my best friend lived there, and she just had like a really nice connection with the landlord. And so even though me and Jacob didn't have jobs in that location at the time, we were still able to get the apartment. So we got the apartment, and then she leaves and she moves to Nevada, and so she gets rid of all of her belongings, and there was this couch, this wonderful, wonderful couch. It was a sectional. It was big. I even like when I got pregnant with my daughter, I imagined like my breastfeeding corner in this section of the couch. And when I moved, it was right before I gave birth to Lily, and we kept part of the couch, but I had to get rid of store the other part.
Oh, yeah.
And then we decided that we were just going to get rid of everything in the storage. So we got rid of the entire sectional to my sister. And I was like, goodbye, couch. And it's like almost the representation of like having this really nice thing because of this vision that you had and letting go of the vision that you had that went with the couch. Like I was
Mhm.
like, goodbye, old vision. I really liked you. I really wish we worked out. But apparently this is not flowing.
Yeah, and that's so much of life is letting go of, like, the image, especially in motherhood. I find for me that rang more true than any other period of my life, even though I would say in my 20s, like teens, 20s, I didn't know who I was, so I was
Mhm.
always trying to fit into a box, but when I became a mother, that was really prevalent, like, "Oh, this is how I should be, this is what I should be doing," and letting go of
Mm.
all of that is so freeing. Even if it's something that you really, really love, like, "Oh, I would love this idea of being this type of mom or having this corner," but sometimes it's not that, and it's really nice to be able to let go of that so that you can appreciate whatever moment you are in.
Yes, yes, yes. I wonder with you as well. So having children, I became obsessed with getting the right toys for my daughter. To come to find out she doesn't like any of them. And so like even saying goodbye to her toys, and I was like, she didn't even get to use it. Like I feel like it's almost
Yeah.
like wasted money. And nothing's wasted. Like when you tune into your inner voice, nothing's wasted ever. But it was this vision of like her playing with these toys, and then she was like, nah, mom, like I want to play with the box. Thank you.
Exactly.
And
I
so
prefer
even
this
saying good
random cup.
yes, I would like a random cup with a spoon, and I'm just gonna shove the spoon in my mouth, and like I'll be good. So yeah, no, just saying goodbye to the vision of like what motherhood would look like.
Yeah. Yes, I experienced that too. My son was the first. He was the oldest one of the oldest in the family, and so we definitely got showered with gifts, and in that I was lucky I didn't have to purchase a lot of things for him.
Mhm.
So the things I did purchase, like, I definitely put intention, but I think up till he's 8 now, up till now, probably I still buy things for him that's more for me than it is for him, you know?
We just went to Disney, hence the castle behind me of like loving Disney. Like we finally went to Disney with her. And every time I picked up a toy for her, I looked at my mom and I was like, yes, I know it's for me.
Yeah. And that's okay too. I love that about being in this space with them growing up. You get to revisit your childhood and what brought you joy and reminding myself of all those things. But it definitely is, you have to step back and think these ideas or even these memories, this experience that I had, those are mine and they don't necessarily need to be his. And in some ways, you try to overcompensate sometimes, or yeah, we sent him to Montessori, so definitely there was a period where I was
Mm,
looking to all the, like, the wooden toys, and they were so beautiful. We didn't have all of that, and I think it was okay sometimes to not have those. Sometimes we had the toys that made noise, and he loved those, so it's okay too. But it
yeah,
definitely took, like, going through the things, going through mentally what I was attaching meaning to, and then being letting him enjoy and pick what he wants to do.
it's funny because we too wanted to go the Montessori method, and her favorite toys make sounds. And I'm like,
Yeah.
of course, of course.
Yeah, there's so many concepts that you can still apply, it doesn't have to. And you mentioned KonMari, that's what got me into professional organizing, like going through the whole system really cleared up space for me. But in my approach, I'm much more moderationalist of a moderationalist.
Mm,
So, um, I think it helps to have that structure, but in a lot of cases, it's not possible or it's not necessary for some of my clients or for myself. So I think it's good to have that structure to know what you're going towards, but it doesn't mean you have to stick to it all the time.
I love that.
Yeah. So I love that it's so all encompassing. Like you've named so many things, but it comes back to really the intention and the meaning behind it, which is something that comes from within. It's nothing that somebody's going to tell you. Like, this
Yeah.
is the Montessori method, this is what you need, but if you know what you need, you know what your child needs, and you can trust that your child knows what they need, and it's a
Hmm.
whole different ballgame.
I also wonder, and again, maybe you have like your version or vision of what I'm about to say. I was just on a call with a couple of my friends, and we were talking about like the up leveling in our life and like what would it look like if we just took away all of our doubt? Like
Mhm.
what would we do? What actions would we take? And honestly, I went to like what would I own? And
Ah,
and that version of me looks, I'm not gonna say a lot different than me now, but it would be a lot more intentional than even what I'm doing. And when I look at your stuff or when you post and just like I'm just like, wow, like this woman really really cares about her environment. And I realized in my human design I I should care. Should I use that loosely, but like
yeah.
my environment really helps me feel my best. And so like how can I start nurturing that? And so I came into this episode already with the conversation of like, oh, there's a next level of this.
Yeah, there is, and I love that you bring it into what would I own. That's not even as an organizer, I'm constantly sorry, 1 second, as happens as a family. Okay. Yeah, family interruptions occur on the
I love
daily.
them.
Um, so yes, bringing it back to what would I own? That's such a good question because inner voice a lot of times is about coming back to the present and not necessarily like this moment is the only one that matters. But with owning things, a lot of the times we keep things because what if we need it in the future? And
Mm,
that what if question comes from a place of uncertainty and not trusting that you'll have something, not trusting that you'll be able to earn it or have it or keep it in the future. And when you have that trust in yourself in this moment, I think it becomes a lot easier to release or even choose. Sometimes personally, um, I'll buy things and now less so, but I know that my tendency is to buy things if they're on sale or if you can buy them in bulk. That like that was my MO totally. Like is it a good deal? And that's not at all honoring the present inner voice decision,
Mhm.
right? Like that's a what if just in case. So completely trusting into this future and trusting that in the future, if you do need it, it will show up really
Mm.
allows people to let go more and be present to what they have. And those are my intentions. And didn't always have this mindset. And so even now in my home, it has things that I purchased, with that mentality or I received in a different mindset. And so I think it's a constant cycle of revisiting, being aware, being mindful of your decisions. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but having that intention really helps in the mindset.
In this conversation, I was brought back to when I had you on my podcast, and the quote that I have been giving to all of my clients as "a little by little and a little becomes a lot," because they all
Yeah.
complain. Every one of my clients complain. I'm putting in the work, Amber, but it just feels like I'm taking baby steps. And I was like, yes, but those baby steps are gonna be like, you're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, oh, I climbed an entire mountain.
Yeah. Yes. And you can't just leap the mountain. Like, that's
Right?
impossible. And when people come to me and they say, "Okay, I need to organize my whole house," I always break it down into very, very small pieces for that exact reason. And it doesn't seem like a lot. And this morning I was talking actually about how I don't do before and after pictures all the time. And sometimes it's because we're doing such micro decisions, micro portions in your home that visually might not even make a difference, but mentally it's relieved you from maybe
Mm.
20 decisions in your life. Now I don't have to think about where I put my keys. I know exactly it's going to go in there every single time. And so it saves you time when you're late, it saves you time when you're flustered, it saves you time when somebody else is looking for the keys. Like, those are all decisions that lighten the load, and somebody else might walk in and not see a difference at all, but if you feel it, it's the energetic shift that's gonna make the difference.
You have me now like aspiring to go to the store right now and get binders for my husband magic cards. He's like a complete nerd, complete nerd. But they're filling my drawers of this desk right now. His magic cards, like it's not
Mhm.
mine. I'm like, huh, imagine the mental clarity I would have if I got him something that would be useful for this right now.
Yeah, and as soon as you said, "I'm gonna go to the store and buy stuff," like, my red flags was coming up because that's usually, people's knee-jerk reaction is to go to the store and buy
Mm.
containers, but I love that you have the intention of organizing it for him, like, that binder is going to help him find his cards, it's gonna make
Yes.
space for you. Yeah, totally functional, and I support that decision, so that'll be fun, and that's such a small thing, right? Like, if
Mhm.
you were to say, "I'm gonna organize all my stuff," magic cards might not be the top of the list,
Right.
objectively, but it's gonna help you every day. You're gonna be able to use your space differently, so,
Mm.
yeah, and it's not even necessarily releasing the cards, like, he some people might be like, "Oh, my husband has so many magic cards, he doesn't need them all." But no, it's maybe just finding a different container for it and a different way to display them.
And no, that's also very funny because I very much when we moved in together, I was like, "Oh my god, your magic cards are taking up a lot of space." And then we moved with them, and think about the fact that I had to get rid of a lot of things to move here, and he brought his tub
Mhm.
of magic cards. And so I was like, "But this brings him joy. Like, this is literally what
Yeah,
lights him up, and I wouldn't want to take that away from him ever."
and you honoring that is such a it's like a small gesture in your relationship, but I'm sure that carries over to everything.
Mm.
So, it's really nice that you give him the space to have his joy too, and it's relative. It's so individual for everybody what brings joy, and that's exactly why I have this because I love hearing what t-shirt means to one person versus another. Like, there are so many stories that could or dress so many stories, and for me, like, the dresses, when you said that, it made me think immediately of my nursing season too. That's when I had to give up, like, they all went to the corner of my closet because they weren't not all of them were nursing friendly, like, I definitely
Mm.
wasn't thinking about that before I got pregnant, so it was a good 2, 3 years that I couldn't wear those dresses,
That
and
yeah.
yeah, it's like a milestone to be able to start collecting again and start wearing them and feeling nice in them.
Yes.
Yeah. And so on the other side of the thing, what are you ready to release today?
Okay. So I'm still in the process of this, and still working with my inner voice on this one, but she's been funny to play with. My grandfather passed away in 2007, and I have this Disney sweatshirt that says 2005 on it, and it's really old. Okay, so like it's not like it's old, but it was not taken care of well
Mhm.
by little Amber. So like it has been worn. And so when we went to Disney this last trip, my inner voice started the initiation process of releasing that sweatshirt by getting me a new sweatshirt, and it has like it's Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary, and so I got this sparkly sequin sweatshirt that says the 50th anniversary on it, and I have not gotten rid of the 2005 sweatshirt yet, but I know that that's the reason why my inner voice got me this sweatshirt. It was like
Mm,
I needed something that represented me, that was honored him in a way, but it was my flavor of it. And so,
mhm.
I'll have to I'll have to start saying goodbye to the 2005 sweatshirt, but still it's still lingering, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure, because especially something that's so sentimental, those are definitely hard to release, and you feel almost like you're mourning again, like, I'm sure you've gone through the grieving, um, feelings and emotions and all the mechanics that go towards it, but that doesn't go away after, like, a
Right.
given amount of time, right? It comes in spurts, and it comes in little pieces, and so letting go of the sweatshirt is probably gonna bring up some of those memories again and some of the feelings, and that's not always easy, especially if you've gone through it already,
Right.
um, to revisit, so it definitely makes sense. I'm curious, what does your inner voice say about it? Have you asked your inner voice?
Um it's more of this visual, and it's because he's not, my mind used to think that because he's not here I have to have something of his.
Mhm,
And with this inner voice work, she just kind of like shows me this image that he's always with me, right? Because we, in at least in my viewpoint, right, and in my experience with inner voice, we don't die. Like we like evolve. And so he came for my soul's evolution into my life. Like we had a soul contract for that time, and then we continue to have a soul contract in whatever way that is on the spirit side, and maybe one day he'll choose another body, and in another lifetime he won't be in that connection with me, right? But
mhm,
it's the sweatshirt doesn't make him anymore here. And so
yeah,
it's this visual of like him holding my hand because he's still with me, and me like honoring the sweatshirt and like letting it go.
which is such a powerful way to think about it, and if we were talking about the dresses earlier, like, being a visual representation, do you think that's why you have kept the sweatshirt this long?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
It's
in
and
some
I
ways
Oh, you go.
I was just thinking in some ways, it's like now your connection is probably even stronger or deeper, the fact that you can let go of that sweatshirt, knowing that
Mm.
he'll always be there.
Yeah, it's faith, right? It's
Mhm,
having faith. And before, because of his death, I lost. Like that was a big turning point in my life of like losing faith. And in the last few years, just coming back to that faith has allowed it for me to realize our journey together.
mhm. Do you have a memory of him at Disney or as
So
little Amber?
my grandfather, there he he was a funny man. He was a very funny man, but he was like dry humor, if you will, and he loved alone time. And the one memory that sticks out to me, it's not even anything of quote unquote importance. It's him lost in Disney trying to find our hotel room. And we had these walkie talkie cell phones at the time. And my dad's walkie talking to him, being like, look up, look up. And so it's like, it wasn't like a moment between us, but it was just like his character represented of like, I'm lost. Cool.
And everyone else around him is panicking.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I love that it's the walkie-talkie too, the cell phone day. But we were just talking about that because we recently took a beach trip, and, my mom came too, and we were reminiscing about our beach trips and family trips, and she said that's how they would keep in touch during the convoy of driving from Montreal to North Carolina. It would just be through walkie-talkies.
Oh,
And
that's funny.
I love that little visual. And if your grandfather, like, I was also visualizing like him wearing it, or was it just something that you always owned and he gave to you?
No, so he owned it from 2005 until 2007. So
Okay.
like even in the memory, I think he's wearing the sweatshirt.
Oh,
Um, and then when he passed away, I got a lot of his clothing. He was a smaller man, so like I was able to fit into his clothing at the time, like a little big, but like it wasn't anything major. Um, and that was the one thing that I got rid of all the other clothing, and that was the one thing that I just couldn't let go of at the time.
mm. So this is the last
This is the last of it.
physical
Yep.
physical piece.
Nuts. It's nuts. I didn't even know this is where the conversation was going to today.
We never know. And that's what's so beautiful. I think the things bring up so many memories, and just honoring that in itself sometimes makes it a little bit easier to process.
Mm,
It's a physical item, but yeah, there's a lot of meaning that can be behind it, and it's not just as easy. Like, for example, if your husband were to say, "Oh, that sweatshirt's so old, you should get rid of it," or somebody else came in, like, as an organizer, I think sometimes people are afraid that or sometimes they want me to come in and say, "Okay, you get rid of all of this," but the decision is mostly theirs. I can't decide for them because I don't know what it means to them. I don't know that
mm,
there's this whole story, and if I were to say, "Okay, Amber, it's time to let go of the sweatshirt," it's not my place really, right? Like, that's your memory, that's your connection with your grandfather. And when you're ready, you'll know, and then it'll be easier
right.
to release at that time.
Yeah. Also with releasing, and this, I don't know if it happens to you, but it happens to me quite often. When spirit's ready for me to get rid of something, it often breaks. So I'm talking on a
Mhm.
microphone right now. It's my third one. And each one, the first two that broke was an up level in my podcast, like a different topic even that I was talking
Oh,
about.
wow.
And there was a friendship that ended in my life too. And I literally left the person's house, borrowed their charger, and the charger broke within like 2 days. And 2 weeks later, she had like this friendship breakup with me. And I was like,
Oh
that's so
my.
funny that your charger broke. Like, it's like the energies that are at play sometimes. I'm like, you just died on me. And now I'm like clueless as to why. But
Right.
when I tune in, I'm like, you had to break it for me to get the message? Really?
Yeah, but yes, really.
Yes.
Sometimes it takes that. And even showing you the sparkly sweatshirt, like, there's so many little signs that if in awareness we can receive, it just
Mm,
makes the whole flow of it, there's just less resistance,
yes.
I
Yes, yes,
think.
yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful, like, it was so short, but I feel like so full. I love the
Yes.
windy route that it took.
Me too.
So
Thank you,
thank
Twee.
you for sharing. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of it. I think I really related, obviously. But whenever I am in the inner voice space along with organizing, I think it's such a magical combination. And your stories today really highlighted that.
Well, and okay, I just want to touch on the fact that we met because of Inner Voice, and you were talking about organizing with our Inner Voice facilitator training group. And your vibration, like everyone talks about Marie Kondo and beautiful, beautiful work that she does, don't get me wrong. But it's you who drove like that factor of like, oh, this actually gets to be my process.
Mm.
And so you have not, when I'm decluttering, I will always think of you in this way of like, this inspires me. Versus Marie Kondo is very much like, my mind was like, I need to do this.
Yeah.
And you were like, let's dive deeper.
Yeah, and we can dive deeper without it being a whole thing sometimes.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's what I saw in organizing. It's like, yes, it starts out with organizing your closet. It could mean your individuality, your style, how you feel about yourself, which in the end, it's like who you are, and who you are in connection with your inner voice. For me, it was a huge thing. And I always loved or was more drawn to the emotional side of organizing. But until inner voice, like intentionally, specifically, it really for me represents the individual person's journey. And so I'm there
Mm.
to hold the space and facilitate. But in the end, the decision, the surroundings, the environment, it's yours, and you're the best person to honor that and make decisions around it. So thank you so much. I was getting a little emotional and not knowing how to respond, but I really appreciate your seeing me that way.
Well, thank you for being a guiding light.
All right, so this is a magical way to end the show today, and I wish you a good day and a wonderful day, a magical day. Every time I talk to you, I feel like I just want to jump into the magic of Disney. So that's what I take
I
with
love it.
me. All right, have a good, wonderful day.
You as well.
Bye, everyone.